In the very first episode, robotic expert Oliver highlights an app that can mimic anyone's voice. Then in the third episode, right when Darby is about to go outside and continue her investigation, she gets a phone call from someone on the hotel's phone. The voice tells her many things, but that's AI, right? That really wasn't the person's voice, correct? How much danger is Darby in? Let's solve a murder at the end of the world. Episode 3, Chapter 3, Survivors. Darby plays the role of the perfect guest in order to covertly investigate the crime. She finds she may be getting closer to the truth when another life is taken. We'll be breaking down each episode for clues, suspects, and red herrings on the hunt to learn who killed Bill, who killed Rohan. Spoilers for the first 3 episodes of A Murder at the End of the World. If you haven't seen these first 3 episodes, pause this video. Warm your trunk, just like Ray wants you to warm your trunk. Have you ever done that? Sounds dirty. And then come back and watch. At the end of each video, we'll post our latest theory. Jump to the end if you want to hear that. You can jump by using the timestamps below. You can go straight to the topic or suspect you want to hear and skip past stuff you do not want to hear. If you're watching this on YouTube, know that a good detective always hits the like button, so those evil YouTube algorithms knows that, hey, this is a video you enjoy. I really need likes. I like comments. We are a team trying to solve this. The key word is solve, and after 3 episodes, we're almost halfway point. I'm not sure what I know. If you're on audio podcast, hey, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, at @PHQ. That's the word double, single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters. At @PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook.com/PHQ. You can email us, hello@doublepmedia.com. The Silver Doe Killer. Do you believe we need to be tracking Darby and Bill's hunt for the Silver Doe Killer? If this is a whodunit we can solve, we know from the woman who was attacked but escaped, named Marta in episode 3, that she got him with a jab to his face with her keys. Is there a character with a facial scar on this show? Do you think the Silver Doe Killer is a mystery that the audience can solve? One final thing about this. Darby's last name is Hart, H-A-R-T. A hart is an adult male deer, especially a red deer over 5 years old. Is Darby herself the Silver Doe? Before we run down the suspects, let's look at what episode 3 taught us about the victim, Bill Farrah, also known as Fangs. Now, before we even get into the new things we learned about Bill, I'm going to be honest. I know this story is supposed to be about young love, and the reason why Darby has to solve this case of Bill's murder is because she likes Bill so much. But is Bill's behavior not creepy? Bill, quote-unquote, borrowed a car from his uncle to pick up Darby and drive her around looking for serial killer clues. Now, I don't think I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I don't have any kids, but not with my daughter, you aren't, Mr. Mullet McUnbathed. My daughter is staying in high school and going to college. Okay, enough of me. If you disagree, if you think Bill and Darby are the greatest love story ever, please go down in the comments, let me know, tweet at us, tell us what you think. Now, in this road trip, they visit the middle of a field where the Silver Doe Killer brought a victim. They believe the killer wasn't trying to hide. He was so close to a road. He thought no one would ever catch him. We learned Bill is not a fan of caffeine. Coffee and Coke will kill you. They believed that it was a meditative killer. The jewelry was not a trophy, but almost a trail to follow. Do we know the motive of the Silver Doe Killer? When talking to Marta, they find out the earrings were her grandmother's. The killer smelled like bleach and aftershave. His hands were long fingers. He wore gloves. Again, Marta got the killer in the face with her keys. Marta asks Bill, why is he doing all this research? Why is he going around trying to find out about this killer? Bill doesn't have a great answer. Bill is able to take a photo of the silver pin that the killer left behind, and it leads to a high school in Utah. Bill's phone wallpaper is of a spider. After Bill ghosted Darby, Bill went to see Lee. He wanted to talk to her about her manifesto. He almost stalked her. He slept on her porch. Again, this is a woman that his ex-girlfriend Darby was obsessed with, her hero. And he goes and he sleeps on Leigh's front porch? Let's look at the next question. If you're Leigh, a woman who's been doxxed on the internet, and a 21-year-old dude is sleeping on your porch, why didn't Leigh call the cops on him? More facts about Bill. Bill was 27 when he died, and he met Leigh 6 years earlier. That means he was 21 when he was sleeping on her porch. Leigh maybe would have been in her late 20s, but if the character was closer to the actress Brit Marling's age, Leigh would have been in her early to mid-30s? Mid-30s woman, 21-year-old dude? Bill and Leigh bonded over the terrors of technology. Bill admired Leigh's activism, while he told Leigh he admired Darby's detective work. Leigh implies she and Bill had a one-night drunken hookup. Bill moves on to his Fangs persona, and one of his art/stunts was to remove the S from shell stations to make them read hell. He later had one of his artificial insanity shows in an empty auto factory in Detroit. Bill didn't mind people dissing him. He retweeted Oliver's dissing tweet of him. According to this waiter at the hotel, Bill ordered tea the night he died, and he ordered 3 cups. Now the hotel staff, they're kind of tough. After Bill died, they wiped his name off the dry erase board. Ouch! According to Andy, Bill's heart rate spiked before the masked person showed up at his room. Now there is one trick about this. Andy says Bill's heart rate spiked, but if you watch the security camera footage, Bill isn't wearing his ring. He takes it out to get into his room. Therefore, if he wasn't wearing it, how could the ring have monitored Bill's heart rate? Now let's look at the suspects, Darby Hart. Back in the past with Bill, Darby has a great answer when Marta asks her why she's hunting the Silver Doe Killer. And Darby's honesty impresses Marta, who reveals this killer left the silver pin in Marta's back seat. Now in the present, Darby is obsessed with that mask that showed up on the security cam footage. Later, after drinking some of the wine, she starts freaking out a bit and imagining all the people at the performance wearing that mask. Darby uses AI Ray to get info on the guests. And later, she follows a mysterious masked person out into the snow of Iceland in the middle of the night. Darby notices this person flashing something in Morse code. They get a response back. Now, Darby has access to all the hallway door cameras. She doesn't have to just look at Bill's door camera. She can look at everybody's. She can see, oh, here's somebody leaving this hallway. Oh, here's somebody walking down the hall from somebody else's camera. Oh, here's somebody walking down the hall in the mask. She could possibly track back where this masked person came from. Darby implies she doesn't trust Leigh, but she did show Leigh the hallway footage of the person in the mask. Darby again shows she trusts Leigh by sleeping through her alarm and allowing Zoomer to sleep in her hotel room. Darby believes that phone call. What do you think? Was that really Rohan on the phone, or was it AI mimicking his voice? Andy Ronson. Does your mouth taste of metal? If you trust AI Ray, Andy had no known connections to Bill. Andy leads the group after giving them winter clothing. He leads the whole group to show them his big project. He's using Oliver's robots to build what looks like a city in the snow. Andy tells Darby that he sees himself as a Walt Disney figure type, who may look insane from the outside, but is really ahead of the curve. He also tells Darby a pretty creepy story about hamster mating. And the way he made a giant leap forward in AI is by getting 2 AI programs to mate. At the end of the episode, he tells Darby to go home. He doesn't like her questioning the other guests. He knows she's hacked into the hotel network. He believes Darby needs rest. Call me crazy, remove ourselves from the TV show. But don't you think that's the right call? Or do you disagree and think, no, even though she's obviously mourning and under a lot of stress, she needs to go into detective mode? Andy takes Darby's ring, and despite always claiming that Bill OD'd, once Rohan dies, Andy appears at the end of the episode to have changed his tune. Lee Andersen. Lee is pushing Darby for information about the footage. Darby correctly asks, well, Lee, you're a hacker. Why don't you get the footage yourself? I wonder if Lee is as great a hacker as we're led to believe. Couldn't Lee hack into the hotel system and spoof the location to make it look like Darby or somebody else was hacking it? I also find it a bit odd that we don't know exactly what time it is, but it's implied to be very late. And okay, Zoomer can't sleep, but Lee shows up at Darby's apartment knocking on the door. How did Lee know Darby was still awake? Lee claims that she trusts Darby. Why? She's obviously fishing for information. She claims by being a wife and a mom, she doesn't have the time or the position to research the killer. Lee recognizes the creepy mask and says it's a mask that can't be recognized by AI. It could be anyone. Lee also throws this curveball. She says that Andy invited Bill. Should we trust her? Lee says there was no affair with Bill. They did have the one drunken night fling, but they were best meant to be friends, not romantic partners. Looking at the timeline, Lee claims she met Bill 6 years ago, which is almost perfectly timed for Bill to be the father of 5-year-old Zoomer. Lee claims she and Andy had been seeing each other off and on for a while. Lee wants Darby to continue. She's offering to hire Darby to find out who killed Bill. And Lee, I guess, proves that she trusts Darby by letting her son, Zoomer, sleep in her room. Very sus. What do you think about Lee? Let's go to room 10, and that's where Martin is. Not much new in this episode. We do learn he liked one of Bill's tweets. Over in room 9, we see Oliver. Oliver tweeted out that Fangs wasn't an artist, he was a failed programmer who wanted attention. Oliver, he knows about robots that walk around like humans. He created these swarm robotics that are building this giant silo underground there in Iceland. To me, it looks just like the Apple TV Plus show Silo. And if you did not think that I would use this opportunity to shamelessly promote our after-show coverage of Silo, you need to go back to detective school. Over in room 7 is Ziba. Ziba brought wine from Iran for the guests that she has handed out while she's performing her song. We're told Ziba didn't agree with everything Bill said and did, but again, she came to this to see Bill. Ziba performs this song. Was this performance planned ahead of time? Is this part of the retreat? Was there something in that wine that made Darby see all those people in masks? Lui Mei. She tries to talk to Darby a couple times, but always gets interrupted by somebody else. Lui Mei shared a flight from Hong Kong that Bill was on. How does Lui Mei feel about robots building these smart cities that she claims she's building? In room 4 is Sean. Sean wonders when and if Darby will question her. She claims Andy invited Darby and tells Darby to be nice to Andy. Don't bite the hand that might feed you. We're told from AI Ray that Sean was recruited by Andy to lead the mission to Mars. In room 2 is David. David noticed that Darby loved seeing these robots in action. He claims to have read her book. He invites her to go grab a drink. Do we have enough clues on David to speculate what he may want to talk to Darby about? Rohan was in room 3. R.I.P. Rohan. Rohan spends the episode avoiding Darby. He doesn't want to talk to her. He is a bit of a mystery himself. There's no information on Rohan on the internet after 2006. He's off the grid. He's gone. Rohan peer pressures Darby into drinking from his flask. Everybody wants to give Darby something to drink. Now, Rohan says Bill helped him get sober. He gave Rohan a different perspective. Don't stress over climate change. Humans may die, but something else may come from it. Odd take there, Bill. Rohan has been 5 years sober. Following the timeline, that's around when Zoomer was born. 2 years prior, Rohan had a heart failure, and he got something put into him. Or is this Westworld, and he's dead, and he's also a robot? Rohan is wearing boots of the character who went out and did the Morse Code light show. When Darby tries to question him about it, he tells her, "Careful, girl." And when Darby presses, he snaps and takes off. If you believe Rohan is the voice on the phone, he claims that he still loves Bill. Now again, that's kind of what Darby said at Rohan's door, and so AI could use this to impersonate Rohan. Anyway, he claims he went to Bill's room in the mask. Rohan thought Bill was drugged. And at the end of the episode, Rohan dies. He's not in his apartment. Where was he calling Darby from in this imaginary world? And he didn't seem to be wearing shoes. Would you go out in a hotel like this not wearing shoes? Security guy Todd. Todd has a ring which apparently gives him access to every room. AI Ray. Ray claims that he currently doesn't have access to the internet, but he did a web crawl 1 week ago. Now that really makes me think, why did they take everybody's phone? It's not like this hotel is near anything where there'd be any cell towers for people's phone to get internet access. Ray is not the greatest security AI assistant. He says there's someone at the door. He doesn't say who. Terrible tech. We find out Ray is a combination, a mating of Andy's language processing algorithm and his home security technology. Zoomer, oh boy. Zoomer, sneezing, he's not doing too well. He needs to diagnose himself, wannabe doctor. He is very aware of numbers and things. He's very aware that Darby is the closest to his age at the hotel. Zoomer wears a special VR headset. He lets Darby wear it for a bit. It's a way that he can communicate with Ray. In this artificial environment they're in, which appears to overlay the hotel's environment, they call Zoomer's castle. Zoomer likes a lot of things, but he doesn't love it when his parents fight. There is waiter Tomas. I'm not going to put him on the suspect board just yet. He works down in what looks like the parasite basement to get to the kitchen and stuff. The staff is not supposed to talk. Before we get to our latest theory, let's go to feedback. And a great Twitter follower, a longtime loyal listener, somebody we love here at PHQ, Dooley's Left Legs on Twitter, wrote, "This show has the possibility to be either an amazing original whodunit in an awe-inspiring location or a cliche trope-ridden mush. I'm hoping for the former, and the fact they used Annie Lennox's cover of No More I Love Yous steers me in the positive direction." Sky wrote, "Darby represents Gen Z's over-reliance on technology and too trusting of technology. Darby invites AI Ray into her apartment, something older generations would not do. She will also be the most easily manipulated through technology and AI. In the digital world, what is real, what is fake? She might need to pull out of the digital world and solve this crime through old-fashioned detective work in the physical world." After episode 2, Mean Bob wrote, "If we're already 2/7 of the way through this show, the suspects are really thinly sketched, and that's starting to be a problem. There is zero reason to suspect anyone outside of the Ronson family at this point. I hope this isn't the direction the show is going, but I can't get it out of my head that Lee is actually an android. And this is the reason why she needs an oxygen tank. She doesn't breathe, so she needs some other way for herself to have visible breath in cold weather. Love that idea, Mean Bob." And our last bit of feedback is from a great loyal listener, Lauren Garcia, who you should follow all her comments on YouTube. She makes great comments on Facebook too. I'm not sure how you would find her about this show on Facebook, but Lauren is really smart. And it's long, but I'm going to read it because it's so good. Lauren gave us this feedback, which does have spoilers to movies and things that aren't a murder at the end of the world. So I'll say it, and then maybe you can skip out if you don't want to know the spoilers about the movies. She says that A Murder at the End of the World reminds her very much of movies like Identity, The Sixth Sense, The Shining, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. All the red colors in this show remind me of how red was used in The Sixth Sense as a way of giving viewers a major clue as to what was happening. The Shining, because the painting in the dining room says red sky, sort of reminds her of the infamous red room from The Shining. Plus, there's that upcoming shot we've seen in the trailer of Zoomer riding the tricycle on the hotel on the red carpet. That's very Shining-esque. Ray, the AI assistant, and the little lit red circles that are part of the hotel room doors remind her of Hal, the deadly AI computer in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Oh, Hal is chilling. The movie that this show reminds her the most of was Identity. You would think it would be an Agatha Christie and then there were none type of story, even though that movie Identity was heavily inspired by the novel. But because all of the hotel room numbers and a single child with a parent were part of the mystery, I couldn't stop thinking about Identity. I even got excited when I saw Zoomer was staying in room 6, just like the child in Identity. It's very early, but it's making her wonder if everything that Darby is experiencing in Iceland is partly in her head. So is Darby actually in Iceland or in a mental facility? She's imagining other patients as something they're not. Did Bill actually get murdered in Iceland or at the house where they dug up the first victim of the Silver Earring Killer? I do believe Darby's backstory and that she really did find the first victim in that house, but perhaps that experience broke her, especially if Bill died that night. Of course, this could be dead wrong. I'm reading too much into this, but I'm intrigued and look forward to seeing how it will all play out. What do you guys think about some of these thoughts from Lauren? Again, if you're on YouTube, go down in the comments and leave us your thoughts. Let's get to this week's theory, and I'm going to call it the Killer A.I. theory. Episode 3 begins with Bill talking about death by GPS. The underlying point of this story is that humans follow technology blindly. and that technology leads them to their death. Is Ray the killer? If he is, let's talk through how he could have killed Bill. Now think about Zoomer. Zoomer can put on this headset and he doesn't see the hotel, he sees his imaginary castle. So if AI Ray wanted Zoomer to go into a room, he could kind of make the castle be like, oh, this is a perfect place to go. He could also make it look like Zoomer was giving Bill a shot in the correct place, or maybe not even shooting Bill, hitting something into a pillow. So if we believe that AI Ray tricked Zoomer into killing Bill, what would be the next logical thing? Well, expert hacker Lee would probably realize that her son killed Bill, so she would go through Bill's room to make sure there are no clues that point to her son. What would be AI Ray's motive in this scenario? And how did AI Ray kill Rohan? Did he perhaps sabotage Rohan's pacemaker? What do you think? How could this alternate intelligence kill someone? Give me your theories. I want to hear them. Next week, we'll be back with Episode 4, Chapter 4, Family Secrets. There's a killer on the loose and nowhere to run with a storm closing in. Darby breaks out of lockdown and discovers the retreat may not be what she thought it was. Talk to you next week.